This is a crochet tutorial for a corner-to-corner baby blanket. The link to the free pattern is in the description of this video. I use self-striping yarn by West Yorkshire Spinners ColourLab in double knit. Of course, you can use any yarn you like. It just so happens that this is 100% natural wool and is reared, sheared, and spun here in the UK. The nice thing about self-striping yarn and the corner-to-corner method is that you can make your baby blanket without worrying about gauge or changing colors. This self-striping range is available in Summer Pinks, Frosty Blues, Technicolour, and Prism Bright. The crochet pattern is in US terms. You need a pair of scissors, crochet hook, and yarn. The crochet hook that I use is 5mm or size H. I use approximately 5 balls of double knit wool of 100 grams each for a standard baby blanket. We start off with a slip knot. I prefer to make my slip knot as if I'm making a magic circle. For an in-depth look at how to make a slip knot, I've included a video link in the description. Make 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we skip the first 3 chains from the hook. We work a double crochet stitch on the 4th chain, and then we work a double crochet stitch on the 5th chain and a 3rd double crochet stitch on the 6th and final chain. This is the basic block for the corner-to-corner method. We have 3 chains followed by 3 double crochet stitches. Return your work and then make 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, like the first time. And then we skip 3 chains and work double crochet stitches on chain number 4, 5, and 6. So here's our first double crochet stitch. Our second double crochet stitch on the 5th chain, and a 3rd crochet stitch on the 6th chain. We have 2 blocks. Look for the chain 3 space of the first block, insert your hook, and make a slip stitch. Then chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Work 3 double crochet stitches on the same chain 3 space. So our first double crochet, our second double crochet, and our 3rd double crochet. Now we have 3 blocks. Turn your work. You can start to see why we call this corner to corner. We always start off with chain 6 to start off a row. And then we skip 3 chains and work double crochet stitches on the last 3 chains. So here's our first double crochet, our second double crochet, and our 3rd double crochet. So we have 4 blocks. Look for the chain 3 space of the previous block. Insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3. 1, 2, 3. and then we work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. Here's our second double crochet and our third double crochet, which makes 5 blocks. You can start to see how these blocks fit together with the slip stitch. Look for the chain 3 space of the block closest, insert your hook, make a slip stitch, and then chain 3. Work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. We now have 6 blocks. We have 3 blocks along this side and 3 along the other side as well. Turn your work, and since we're starting another row, we're going to chain 6 again. And then we're going to skip 3 chains and work double crochet stitches in the last 3 chains. So we now have 7 blocks. Look for a chain 3 space of the previous block. Insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3. Work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. We now have 8 blocks. Look for the chain 3 space of the closest block and insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3. Then we work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. And this is block number 9. Then we look for the next chain 3 space. Insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3. Work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. Which brings us to 10 blocks. As you can see, each row is actually along the diagonal, and this is why it's called the corner to corner method. We have 4 blocks along this side and 4 blocks along the other side as well. At this point, we've been increasing the number of blocks for each row. Now I'm going to show you what to do once we've reached the number of blocks we need for our baby blanket. Say we want to keep the height of this sample to 6 blocks. Return your work. Instead of making 6 chains, we need to slip stitch 4 times. The first 3 slip stitches is at the top of the 3 double crochet stitches. So here's our first one. Here's our second slip stitch. And our third slip stitch. And then we slip stitch into the chain 3 space. Chain 3, and then we work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. And then we look for the chain 3 space of the closest block. Insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3. Work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. We keep adding blocks until the end of the row. So this is block number 3. And then we start with block number 4. Block number 5. And then here we're starting with block number 6, and we're talking about the number of blocks for this particular row. Slip stitch in the chain 3 space, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space, which makes 6 blocks for this row. So at this point we've kept the height to 6 blocks and increased the width by 1 block. If you want to keep increasing along this side of the sample, or let's say the width of a baby blanket, we continue increasing the blocks by starting off with the chain 6 and then working double crochet stitches in the last 3 chains. At this point we've increased the width by 2 blocks. But let's say we want to increase the width only by 1 block, which already has been done. So we take this second addition out, and then we start off with 4 slip stitches along the previous block as before, instead of the chain 6 start, so on top of this particular block. Okay. Of course, if we want to keep the width of our baby blanket to just 6 blocks, we don't make the final block as in the first part of this video. You still need to attach the previous block with a slip stitch, turn your work, and then slip stitch at the top of the 3 double crochet stitches of this previous block. So first slip stitch, second, third, and then the 4th one would be at the top of the chain 3 space, and then work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. Then we look for the chain 3 space of the closest block, insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 3, and then work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space. We keep adding blocks until the end of the row. Take note that you need to remember where to stop adding blocks depending on how big you want your baby blanket to be. A row of straight blocks will be your signal that you need to stop making more blocks, and simply use a slip stitch to attach the block you're working on to the closest edge. For example, this one. So slip stitch, that's the last edge right there. So for this sample, the height of our sample is 6 blocks and the width is also 6 blocks. We're going to finish this sample for this video tutorial. Turn your work and then slip stitch at the top of the 3 double crochet stitches of the previous block. Here's our first slip stitch, second and third, and our 4th slip stitch is at the chain 3 space, and then we're going to chain 3 and work 3 double crochet stitches at the same chain 3 space. And then we're going to slip stitch at the chain 3 space closest, chain 3, work 3 double crochet stitches in the same chain 3 space, Do the same. Keep adding blocks until you get to the edge of your blanket. And then you finish this row with a slip stitch closest to the edge. At this point we're going to need 2 more rows to finish the sample. The second to the last row will need 2 blocks, and the last row is going to need 1 block. Turn your work and then slip stitch at the top of the 3 double crochet stitches of the previous block. And then slip stitch in the chain 3 space, chain 3, work 3 double crochet stitches, slip stitch in the next chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 double crochet stitches in the same space, and then close that off with a slip stitch at the edge of your block. And then turn your work 3 slip stitches at the top of the double crochet stitches, another slip stitch at the chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 double crochet stitches in the chain 3 space, and this is the last block for our sample. There you have it. Our sample has 6 blocks along its width and 6 blocks along its height. Here I have a baby blanket using the Technicolour of the ColourLab range. At this point I have reached the desired width of my baby blanket, which means I want to keep the number of blocks the same along the width. The citrusy yellow end of my blanket is where we continue. I turn my work and I'm going to slip stitch 4 times, 3 times at the top of the double crochet stitches of the last block, and a final slip stitch in the chain 3 space, and I'm going to chain 3 and then work 3 double crochet stitches in the same space. Then I'm going to slip stitch in the chain 3 space of the closest block, and I'm going to keep adding blocks until the end of this row. I will probably need to keep adding blocks along its length, since my baby blanket will be 30 inches along its width and 40 inches along its height. Thanks for watching. See you next time.